Okay.
But hold on, partner. There's a new top-level domain in town. .tx. .tx is kind of like .com, but for Texans. As Texas is freedom in the physical world, .tx is freedom online. These are censorship-resistant names. Whereas in the past, a domain was only needed by entrepreneurs, all internet users will need to own their name in the future. This will allow you to maintain sovereignty, retain your data, and increase your security and privacy. Now, for the first time, you can finally identify as Texan online. You can use .tx for a website and in the future as a username and login across your online accounts and a wallet name to send and receive funds. HeyTX is the custodian of the .tx blockchain domain, which is made possible through the decentralized naming protocol called Handshake. Our mission is to bring the decentralized web to the masses, specifically Texans and Texas businesses. We partner with domain registrars and make it as easy as possible to own your name on the decentralized web. .tx is the domain for Texas. Check out heytx.io to learn more and join the .tx movement.
Awesome. So I think everybody's already registered .tx in the whole conference, right? So, but yeah, Noel, that's Noel. People are asking, but I think while it's an ad, I think it's also educational for us and good examples to explain even this epic panel we have, SLD panel. You know, we have a lot of very amazing people here representing and here to share their experiences. And I will just transition to our amazing moderator, Steve Webb, to take it from here. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Mike. So everybody's already heard plenty from me, so I am going to keep my comments as brief as possible. Since Noel's ad ran first, we'll go ahead and let him introduce himself first.
What are you talking about, Steve? My work here is done. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the show now. But just looking at the chats, like everybody's saying I should have done the voiceover, and that's how it was going to be initially. One reason, because, you know, the Texan accent, but then the second thing is I'm just cheap. But then I just decided against it. So I guess we still have kind of like an American accent, so it's still okay. But hey, everybody, or should I say howdy, y'all. My name is Noel Ackermann. I'm the kind of like founder of HeyTX, which is the custodian of .tx, as well as a few other premium domains that I will not list here, but maybe I will in the years to come. My background consists of being kind of like all over the place. I've worked at a few real estate tech startups over the years, where I've had all kinds of roles ranging, you know, from management, operations, building out teams, you know, for customer success and sales. Customer experience is something that's really important to me. And yeah, I've been kind of more kind of like in the business, real estate side of things, but then also I really love kind of like ideas as well. That has to do with like freedom, which that's really what drew me to Handshake, is because I saw that is a great way to ensure freedom online. And decentralizing the web is something that I've been focused on for the past half decade. And I saw Handshake as the best, best project that I saw that has the best chances for adoption.
Awesome. John, I think I'm going to go to you second because you're most likely to fall asleep. So I want to make sure you're still engaged. Well, it's like midnight for him, so I want to make sure he's still engaged.
Been drinking coffee. Yeah, so in real life, I'm a copywriter. So I work in a product team in actually a property tech startup. No, I didn't realize that was your background, actually. So that's what I do in real life. Before that, for 10 years, I tried to run a menswear business, which is just don't do that. That's an awful idea. And I'm here because I own .sats and .dgen, and I sell SLDs on those two names. I kind of got interested in domaining around 2012. I had stumbled across Domain Sherpa and Mike Seiger and all that early crew. And I went to some of the names cons in Vegas. And I was very bad at domaining, terrible. I mean, I know what a good name is, and I know what a terrible name is, but the middle 98%, I can't do that. I'm rubbish. So I spent a lot of money, lost a lot of money. And then sort of discovered crypto in 2017 and I was very bad at that as well. Spent a lot of money, lost a lot of money. But in that journey, I came across the Flippening, Clay's podcast.
Oh, cool! I didn't know I was part of this story.
Right. Oh, dude, you're integral. You're a main character in my life. And he was talking to Eric Meltzer, who I actually don't know how to describe Eric. He's sort of on Twitter. I don't know what he did. He's obviously loaded investor. Clay, you're probably better at explaining what he did. But they were talking about HNS. And that was years ago. It must have been like 2018 or something like that. Namebase was just starting up, and I was just like super interested in this Venn diagram of crypto, domains, and words. So it's kind of like, that's perfect for me. So I just started talking with Tyshan, and back in like August 2018, and messing around with the testnet and chucking ideas around, and then I actually, embarrassingly, I thought I owned some HNS at some point, but it was all testnet stuff, and I thought I owned John. I'm like, oh no, I don't own that. I've got to try and bid for that shit now. And actually, like most of us, I think my first auctions completely lost them. So I thought, okay, I can't win those. I'll just buy HNS. And then I started buying stuff on the secondary market. So that's how I've got my names. But I will leave it there and pass over to probably Clay.
Yeah, my brother from another mother. Let's go, Clay.
But are you going to introduce yourself at some point? Can I introduce you?
I mean, you can do that last, but I think people want to hear about you before they want to hear about me. Especially since you were already part of the story. I mean, like, they're on the edge of their seats.
All right, let's do it. So, hi, my name is Clay Collins. I'm the CEO of nomics.com. The reason why I'm here is because I own .c and .1 and .zen. .c and .1 are the number 1 and number 2 selling TLDs in the HNS space. And I think .c is competitive, like somewhere in the top 500 SLDs. Steve is great at providing me with vanity metrics that I can retweet. It's been a really great ride. Prior to owning .c and .1, I once purchased a domain name for $1 million. And have been just actually slinging domains on park.io for a long time. And so, Steve, like, you've made me a bunch of money on .io domain names, and then you probably deserve credit more than anyone else for helping SLD owners monetize their domains. And you've also, I think, innovated the most in the space, like with .forever and impervious domains. So I owe just a great deal of my income and the value of the assets that I have, especially in the domain space, to you. So thanks for all that you've done to make me money.
Well, hopefully we're at the beginning of that journey, as opposed to, hopefully there's much more success in front of us in this panel, and hopefully obviously in the audience. All right, so let's get down to business, I guess. So we informally have some questions that we're going to answer. Obviously, if anybody in the chat has questions, put them in the Q&A, and we'll get to them either as we go or at the end. But the first question we kind of decided to discuss is, what's your overall strategy for marketing your TLDs up to this point? And I think we'll go round robin. So we'll go back to Clay, and then to John, and then Noel, and then we'll do a snake draft for any degenerate gamblers like myself that know what that is. And if you don't, it just means we go one direction and then come back the other. So Clay, you're up.
Yeah. So, I think at the beginning, I started promoting .c domains pretty hard. I ran ads on Nomics, started tweeting from our Twitter domain name, started, making lists of all the domains that were purchased and publishing those so people could get a sense of, I think it provided social proof. And I think it also gave people a sense of the types of domains that they could buy. So I think it would jog their memory. If someone saw that Bitcoin.c was purchased, they might think, all right, maybe I should buy Ethereum.c or ETH.c or Avalanche.c. And then again, the next day, published a list of the .c domains that were published. After I think at some point in time, things had started, I think we got some momentum, and I kind of stopped marketing. I think that whatever sales we've done, we could probably 10x it if I put more time into marketing, and I should probably hire a full-time marketer for .c. Honestly, I've contemplated doing it. So I think that, I think .c and .1 are pretty compelling domain names in and of themselves. I think .c is sort of set up to be the competitor, the direct competitor on the decentralized web to .1. Whatever sales I think we've done, I think we could probably do a lot more with marketing, but it was much more, I think we were just much more active with that in the beginning. And honestly, I think this space is perfect for a pure marketer. So, Steve's company handles, registrations, reselling, distribution, customer support, takedowns, all that stuff. So I think if someone is sort of really excited about the prospect of pure, 24/7 direct sales marketing, I think this is the perfect opportunity for someone who's not, maybe you don't have a technical co-founder, but you could be a TLD entrepreneur and do quite well if you are great at branding. It's a huge opportunity.
That was awesome. John, over to you. Give us some of that sweet alpha for .ggen and .sats.
Well, I mean, I agree with Clay. It's like a marketer's, a community builder's dream, because you really don't have, that's all you have to do. You'd have to sell the things. And when I staked my names back in April 21, I thought it would be a bit more like staking and a little bit more passive. It really isn't. So for the first 7 months, I made 10 sales, which is dismal. But as soon as I started doing something, surprise, surprise, things start happening. I tried also to advertise on Nomics, poorly. And I would never class myself as a marketer or a brand builder. So this is a bit of like if Handshake is an experiment, this is an experiment within an experiment for me personally. And I'm trying to keep it like a business, because I know that's what it should be. I think that's how you need to treat it. But I'm also trying to keep it super light and easy for me. And it's like the third thing on my list of things to do in the day. So it's like my real job, my freelancing work, being a copywriter, and then this. So I don't want this to like stress me out, or I don't want this to kind of like be too much of a thing that I then don't do it. So I just got to keep it light. So what I'm doing really is just tweeting. I mean, Sulu put in the chat before, it's like, I just shit talk on Twitter. And that actually works. It really works. So like when I started really like upping my game on Twitter, it was around, so in October, I'd done 10 sales, right, from April before. In November, so actually, let me just go back. In October, I tweeted 81 times. In November, I tweeted 722 times.
Wow.
And I had 132 sales in that month. Now, I can't put that all down to my powerful tweets, because actually that's when Pork Bun started selling my names too. So there is the Pork Bun effect there. But as we come into December, I'm tweeting like 406 times. In January, I go crazy. I probably am not working very hard at my real job. I've tweeted 1,466 times. I've got 20,000 profile visits. And I've got, in that month, 47 registrations across .sats and .dgen. I think I'm probably looking at that as like a typical month, because there's no Pork Bun effect. I'm putting work in. Then I start to like get really busy at work, don't tweet as much, and guess what? Sales go down. So as basic as it sounds, that is what I'm doing, and it seems to be working. I just need to keep it up, basically.
Oh, that's super inspiring, man. If anyone is listening to this and wants to do marketing for .c and you think you can do it, hit me up, because I want to do what John's doing. It's really inspiring. And Noel, I want a freaking video. That sounds amazing.
So there you go, Noel. That's your cue. So we saw your video, and I've been watching the chat. It seems that everybody agrees that shitposting is definitely the way to go. So let's get your take on the tweeting and the video and what else you're doing to make .tx the official TLD of Texans.
Yeah. First off, yeah. I mean, really, you can tell with like the sweat equity, what that brought to, John with .sats and .dgen, just on how it just really took off once he started with that shit posting. For myself, I never really considered myself a marketer. In fact, with kind of like the whole business spectrum, I would always say that was what I was least good at, but I've been trying to pick it up over the past year, due to Handshake. Really, that's the reason why I joined Twitter and social media, was just to be able to spread the good gospel of Handshake. But for me, I'm going to try to go about it in a little bit different way. So like, what am I doing for marketing? What is my strategy? I think there's kind of like 3 components with that. The first part is like your brand, because your brand is everything. And then the second one is like, who are you marketing to? Who's your target market? And then the third one would be kind of like the type of marketing. So we've been talking about, shit posting on Twitter and doing things digitally, which some of it's not scalable, but if you do ads, that could be scalable, but we haven't really seen the results yet. So hopefully this will help everybody here that has TLDs and deciding what to do with them. So for like the brands, I don't know if y'all have heard yet, but .tx is the domain for Texas, if you haven't heard. I mean, obviously .tx stands for a lot of things, right? Transactions being first and foremost. But I'm really focused on pushing for Texas because there are millions that have an emotional appeal to being Texan. Here's a quick story. Last January when I was bidding on the .tx auction, I was, probably 6 months in advance. I had .tx, these asterisks, but I had like 3 asterisks, which meant that it was like the most important name to me. And the reason is because I had an emotional connection to .tx. Okay. And the other people that participate in that auction, probably would have taken in another direction, right? With being transactions, but to me as an emotional connection. And I knew if I had an emotional connection to .tx, if other people, once they found out about, what these names can do for them and their life and how they live online, and once they found about a .tx, I knew they would feel the same way. And, be able to identify as, with .tx online. So to me, being Texan it doesn't have to do with a place. It's a way of life. It's a way of being. And I take the best of everything that it means to be a Texan and I incorporate that into .tx. And that's what I want it to be. So the way that I've looked at it from the beginning is .tx is an extension of myself. Okay. And you really need that strong conviction in order for others to believe. If I didn't believe in .tx, why is anybody else going to want to be a part of it, or anybody else going to believe in it? Right. And the way that I looked at it over the past year before I even launched was, here I am, I'm going to digitize myself into millions of .tx names. And that has been my mindset from the beginning. So it's really just who I am digitized. And so in other words, I really view .tx as Texas digital real estate, saying that, domains were the first digital real estate. So .tx is a Texas version of that. And just to be clear, like I'm focused, Hey TX is focused on Texas. We're here in Texas. That's kind of what we're focused on. But that doesn't mean that I wanted really the community to kind of take it from there and like have it mean other things like transactions. So to me, I'm kind of surprised that the transaction component hasn't taken off, but maybe it's just because I'm getting in people's head like, hey, .tx only stands for Texas, but I really want the community to kind of run with it too. Just how like .io ended up standing for input output, right? They didn't start out that way. The community decided. So I kind of want it to be similar to that. And I think it will at some point. But for the target market, you have to know who you're going to be marketing to. And for me, I am narrowly focused, but there are a few different groups I'm focused on. So obviously crypto, right? All of us here and the broader crypto community, blockchain, Web3. The second would be domainers, right? And then I have Texans. And then hopefully, with .tx, there's a little bit of overlap there between, those 3 I just mentioned. If I can have one person, be able to have 2 of those check boxes, then that's good. If I can have all 3 of them, the chances are they're going to be, like really into .tx. and everything. So that's just something you need to think about. And then for the type of marketing, this is where I kind of differ. So I really prefer like in-person engagement. So like for me, even though I'm on Twitter and everything, Twitter is really secondary, but it's still important. That's where, the Handshake community is. But I'm really, geo-focused, right? And I think with that, it's important to be immersed within the community. And from there, you can build a community. And that's what I'm in the process of doing. So I've done flyers around Austin. That's really low cost. And I've had a little bit of success putting in businesses or in walkable areas. Really, I would say the biggest, kind of like the biggest momentum that I've had was from sponsoring or attending conferences. So in September of last year, .tx was 2 months live. Had a total of 17 registrations, and I was like doing the Twitter stuff. I made a half a dozen videos that maybe 10 people watched. And then I ended up sponsoring NamesCon, to help with the handshake track, because I wanted, the word of handshake to get spread. And so with that, I was able to kind of get HTX, out there a little bit. And so I did that. And a few weeks later, I attended the Texas Blockchain Council Summit. So that was here in Austin. We had over 700 in-person attendees. Gotta love Texas with that. And most of them were like Bitcoin miners, which was really surprising. But then also there's just people into crypto from all over Texas that came. And we had 3 US senators there too. So just really from after that, I went on Twitter and used their hashtag and said like, hey, whoever attended, this conference, I'll gift you a .tx domain. I had like a little plug, and I had like maybe 5 or 6 people that responded to that I didn't speak with there. And from that, and then also the NamesCon, I had at least a few investors that ended up, going in, pretty decently with .tx, and they have a portfolio of like 80 to over 100 .tx domains each. But really, I guess what I want to get across is it's really important just to put yourself out there, make things happen. And then the last thing I would say is that the, gifting culture is alive and well with .tx. And that may go against, if you're into marketing, that may go against like what great brands do, and like that book, that's really good. But, that's really what I saw in the early days of Bitcoin was the gifting culture. And I think it's necessary for a truly decentralized protocol. So we have that in Handshake, obviously, and I'm trying to establish that within a smaller .tx ecosystem.
Awesome. So we have an obscene number of questions coming in, and so I think I'm going to maybe ask some of those first to make sure that we get some audience questions, and then.
And I have one. Can I put in the queue? Like, Steve, do you have data on like renewal rates? Because I feel like we could infer a lifetime value of a customer if we know the renewal rates. Like, what does churn look like?
I can definitely I don't know if I can get that before the end of this panel though, but yes, I can absolutely.
Awesome to know.
I will follow all of us on Twitter if you're not already, and I will gladly come up with something somewhat helpful in that regard, and we will all retweet it. But yeah, I could try to put something together, but it'll be terrible in these like 5 or 10 minutes we have left. But yes, I will absolutely. Okay. And everybody hold me to that too, because I'm sure I'm going to forget in 5 minutes because I'm old and my brain doesn't work anymore. All right, so let's see. With the marketing of, I'm just going to go based on highest, like the most upvotes. With the marketing of our TLDs, do you see them in the future as standalone? Look at that, it's on the screen now too. Do you see them as standalones where they will have their own brands? I don't know why I'm reading this. You guys are literate, but yeah, I basically already read half of it. Clay, do you want to jump in, or John, whoever wasn't just talking, just to make sure we're round robin? Whoever talks first gets to answer it.
Yeah, so I think it's both. I think that to a large extent, registrars are going to promote the TLDs that make the money, and so part of that is economics. What does the revenue share look like? And then another piece of that is, where is their demand? And it behooves registrars to put high demand TLDs at the top of the list. So if you go to, if you go to gateway.io or other registrars, if you search for things, my guess is that those things or those domain names are sorted. Like if you just type in your name dot whatever, or just type in your name, it's going to suggest TLDs that that registrar is incentivized to promote, so you can definitely highlight your brand by doing marketing, and often that's going to be echoed by the registrars, but it kind of has to start with you. So yeah, I think there's a variety of incentives in the space, and usually just follows the money.
I think there's a window opportunity here for anyone listening in to jump on this like early, because I'm not doing anything that Noel's doing, and I'm managing to make some sales, right? Thanks, by the way, Steve, for making that top 10 boring and making it a top 13. If anyone else saw those slides, .sats is 12, .dgen is 13. That's kind of weird that that's like that, right? It shouldn't really be like that, but it is, because I jumped in reasonably early, and I still think it's really early. So if you can get a good name, find a good community, have a reason to buy it. Like, there's an obvious reason why you would buy a .tx. There's an obvious reason why you'd buy a .c. Com, co, c. It's the next in line, really. My marketing spin on .sats is like, your first name .sats is your future Bitcoin wallet address. .dgen, just, it's for idiots, right? Basically. I've solved quite a few. There are quite a few idiots in the world. It's working. But yeah, I think there's a window of opportunity now to jump in and be in that top 20. And it's kind of obvious that like those ones are going to be the ones that the registrars are going to see as like, oh, they're putting work in. That's a business. I'm going to trust those guys, right? We're showing them that there's some trust there. And I'm just doing it in the evenings while I'm in the gym, just like I'm literally selling these domains in the gym. It's stupid. It's crazy. And let me just take this moment to like say how insane this business possibly could be. As someone who was dealing with stock and sewing machines and crap and warehouses and providers of buttons and providers of thread, and now there's a possibility that this business I could do it from anywhere in the world on my phone. I just sell them once potentially, and if I've got a good story, that name is going to get renewed year after year after year. And if the story is powerful enough, like it's your name, it's your identity, it's your name plus .sats, it's going to be pretty hard to like not renew, right? We all renew domains that we probably aren't ever going to use, but we get attached to them. So if you can get your customers to get attached to their names in some way, and not, don't fake it. But yeah, I just think there's this massive window of opportunity on this crazy business model, and I'd love to see more people like jumping in and trying. Yeah.
So this question, I think, directly ties into what Noel was saying. So I think Noel should probably hit this. Just since I'm already in the process of reading these things, how important do you all feel it is to build a culture around an extension in order for it to thrive? There you go, Noel. Teed up for you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, I'll answer this one, but I also want to get back to the other question as well, just because that's something I have been thinking about lately. But to me, it really does come down to community at the end of the day. And I guess just relating to that, like in choosing like a name to market or to be able to have for these SLD registrations, really has to have like a special meaning, or it has to, there has to be a reason why, right? And so I did come up with kind of like a checklist of 4 different areas of what I consider makes a good TLD for SLD registrations. And this has to do with community. But the first one has to do with its shortness, right? So it has to be, I would say, like, 1 to 3 characters, and that has like a checkbox right there, right? And so obviously Clay is a great example with .c and his. But then the second one is there already like an identity? Is there like an emotional attachment that you have around the name? And and that may be another checkbox as well. I think it exists with like .tx and .sats and everything. And then the third one would have to be with like, does the name already have like a meaning or recognition to like an average observer? So like .dgen, .sats, there's a community that understands, what that represents, what that means. And then that fourth component really is just, if you as a TLD owner, are you going to be engaging, online? Are you going to be engaging with others? And so if you have 2 of those check boxes, then there's a pretty good chance that you can be successful at doing these SLD registrations. If not, this is just one of the many use cases, for like handshake names, what we're doing right now. There's so many other possibilities, and that's what I kind of consult with different, startups or platforms on, like using decentralized naming with their business. But as it comes to the community, like here in Texas, I would say like my goal, like here in the foreseeable future, is to form a strong handshake community here in Austin. There's over the past year or so, like Texas is being established as the Bitcoin mining capital of the world, and they have a lot of cloud and, heavy hitters behind them. And I want to do the same for Handshake. And I really do think it's important, whether to form a community around like .tx or just to be able to have hubs around the world from London to San Francisco. That's really important for Handshake success. And also with like HTX, I'm having all these meetups. Had one on Tuesday with Steve. We're going to be meeting again tomorrow. And really, that can help spread the word about Handshake and then .tx as well. And I would say like having those in-person engagements, we need to get into that. There's, oh my goodness, there's like dozens of different crypto and, NFT, these groups here in Austin where they're just trying to rug people. And, it's up to us to be able to spread the word, because we know what is the future. We understand technology. And I would say that, we're a small community, right? But I would say one passionate community member is better than 10 passive speculators, in my opinion. And I think being in person, helps passion be shared more easily, in my opinion. And so we just started last month. We're going to continue to do it on a monthly basis, having those meetups and having events during like huge gatherings like we did with South by Southwest this week. And we're going to keep on doing that.
All right. So they're telling us we're getting short on time. So I'm going to try to squeeze in like a really impactful question for all of us. But unfortunately, everybody's going to have to be kind of as quick as they can be to make sure that we can get it in. So I think we'll go Clay, then John, then Noel, and then hopefully we can like convince them to extend time. So I'm going to merge the last two questions that we kind of wanted to talk about. And let's think of this more as just like if you were starting from scratch, right? Like if you just bought a brand new TLD and you're going to start right now and try to sell as many as you could using all the lessons you've learned, like let's tackle that question from that angle. So like what were the lessons learned and kind of your biggest successes and failures that you would avoid? And then also kind of like, what is your plan going forward, right? So basically give anything you want to give to try to help as many people as possible in as short of a time as possible. Clay, it's all you. Go for it.
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest stroke of luck that I had was that I had the funds at the time that .c and .1 were available, and they were like both available within a couple days of each other. And I was really focused on the space right then. And I think my two domains really, once the initial marketing push happened, they really haven't needed a lot of help to take off. So I think marketing could absolutely accelerate them, but I think you absolutely have to pay attention to the fact that the TLDs themselves do make a difference. Branding is absolutely important. But I think if you have the right TLDs, a lot of this just comes down to how much just sort of the innate appeal of the TLDs. Marketing, you can absolutely, it's been shown in this space that you can build a TLD with marketing almost alone. So if we look at like XYZ, I think that's a great example of very entrepreneurial players creating branding around. So I think it's important to know that you can do both. You can do it with sweat equity and with hard work and with brand equity, but there's a lot that can come also from just putting down the cash for really solid TLDs.
Yeah, so I've got some thoughts on like choosing a name. That's really super important. I think so there are kind of categories of good names, I think. So you've got like extremely short TLDs like .1. They're so easy to remember, spell, pass on. It's almost impossible to mess up the domain name vc.1, for example. So if you have like really short SLD with a really short TLD, it's going to be a bit of an easier sell. Then you've got kind of right of the .TLDs like .dgen. So you can put loads of words before it and it's going to make sense. So watch.dgen, doge.dgen, sex.dgen, those have all sold. in reverse, they don't actually work that nicely. So dgen.watch, it's not the way you would say it, right? Then there are kind of like domain hack TLDs like IZM or ISM, so that you can say journal.ism, tour.ism, capital.ism. Those are a little bit easier to sell, I think. Identity TLDs like .tx, .sats maybe even. And the reason they're good is because it allows you to focus your marketing, build the community, sell the identity, almost sell a flex, right? And then there's like crypto TLDs, because like it's way easier to sell this stuff to people who are going to just ape in and buy something like for $12 that sounds cool. So I think .sats is like that, crypto.sats, hodl.sats, all those kind of memes. And then the best ones, as Noel was saying, like check more than one box. So .dgen, for example, is good on the right of the dot. It's an identity, it's a crypto TLD, and it's kind of short, 5 letters. .sats is good on the right of the dot for wallet addresses, crypto TLD, and fairly short as well. So the more of those boxes you can tick, the better. Then very quickly, I would just do a one-page site, like make it semi-professional. It's really easy. There's loads of ways you can do that. And then get a Twitter account, and then just start conversing with people. Honestly, it's pretty much that simple. And have a long time horizon and do something every day, like small actions every day. You'll be surprised how they compound.
Yeah, looks like we're running out of time, but I mean, basically what I already said, I can share with anybody that checklist. If anybody has questions about kind of like just evaluating TLDs that you own to see if it would be a good fit for these SLD registrations. There's just so many use cases. I guess kind of like with the communication with what John was saying, something that I've learned is just like who I'm speaking to, because your word choice and communication is really dependent on your audience, right? So like I mentioned earlier, like the different groups that I'm focused on. So like for crypto, then perhaps you can be able to use like those buzzwords like NFT or blockchain domain, or hey, Web3 can't exist without Handshake. That's just a fact. But for domainers, maybe I'll just say like, hey, .tx is the domain for Texas. And then for like the Texans, it kind of just depends as I'm like conversing with them. But maybe they're pro freedom or privacy, or I can make like the .com comparison for people that are kind of like outside the space period. So sometimes I just kind of just break it down to say like .tx is kind of like .com, but for Texas. And then also like Texans also may like the censorship resistant like features as well. So just kind of, and this has been like a learning curve, whether I'm communicating online or in person, because if I say the same thing over and over again to no matter who I'm talking to, it's not going to work. Their eyes are going to glaze over. They're like, what is going on? This guy's crazy. But if you learn on who you're, connecting with and like realize what is important to them, then I think you can be able to gain traction. But besides community, what my future goals are, maybe I'll do something with that animation video. It seems like somebody said put it up on YouTube. So maybe I'll do that. I think that can help raise awareness and increase registrations. Besides that, something I've been doing for the past few months doesn't necessarily directly relate to .tx, but it's really like business development for Handshake. We need to make it easier to access and use Handshake names. So I have a few things in development that I'm working on that I believe will be some of the largest news of the year for Handshake. And what I would just say to everybody is we're all directors of Handshake. It's really important to take initiative, spread the word, .tx, .sats, even .c, Clay, it won't be successful if Handshake doesn't succeed in the end, right? And so if you're a Handshake name owner, you must be an ambassador.
All right, and on that note, here's Mike to pull the plug on us.
Well, I mean, I think we're talking in chats. We're on break time starting now, but I mean, the room's even getting more people joining since we even started. So I think if panelists have a few more minutes, and
I do want to answer one particular question about the Q&A because I think this is fairly relevant.
The point is we're in break time for those that are here. If you are urging for a bathroom break or something, or coffee, or to go to networking, you can do so. But I think we'll extend a bit more during the break for those that want to stick around. If panelists are able to do that, it's great.
So the question, well, I guess It's kind of a tie, but the question I'm looking at is, do you believe mass TLD portfolio acquisitions by major registrars, it doesn't explicitly mention one, but I think we all know which one they might be referring to, will pose a challenge for people marketing TLDs with a fixed budget and limited marketing experience? I have some fairly strong opinions about this, but I will let the panel.
Wait, you can't do that. Come on, what do you think? What do you think, Steve?
Do I believe, so yes, I believe it poses a challenge, but I actually think indirectly it poses an opportunity. And I'm also a lunatic that thinks that everything is an opportunity, but I think realistically the opportunity there is, and this is already happening, right? Like there is a registrar right now that only markets their TLDs. And the opportunity is there's a lot of other registrars in the ecosystem, and they're more than happy to promote every other TLD because they haven't taken the plunge necessarily, or they got in too late, or they don't have 4.7 million in HNS to buy a .s on their own. And so like I think realistically that approach is more in lockstep with the handshake ethos anyway, right? Like this idea that we are all doing this in a distributed, decentralized manner. And so, yeah, like if one company decides that they want to promote a set of TLDs, then that's great. Like that's part of this, right? Everybody has the ability and the choice to do whatever they want to do, but that also leaves a pretty big avenue for everybody to do it in a more decentralized manner and have more people come to the table and actually try to get to a larger user base. But that's just my opinion. So I feel like the panel should weigh in on this because I'm breaking my rule of having the moderator talk.
I think it's also an opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, no, go ahead. No. Go, John. I'll go after you.
Well, I just thought that there's an opportunity to position these things slightly differently. If you've got like a big corporate trying to sell you loads of SLDs on their TLDs, if you come at it semi the way I am, like I've got my face on this stuff, I'm a person, I'm talking like I do in real life, I'm being genuine and human, I think you can differentiate yourself that way as well. So as long as there's either distribution via things we build as a community, or places like Port Bun, as long as there's some distribution, and I think there's a way to market yourself differently from any other thing. And these names are unique, right? You're not gonna there's some competition, but it's not like they're gonna take our lunch, I don't think. I've just jinxed it. Go on, Clay.
Yeah, I think I would just echo what Steve said. If there's a registrar that's only promoting TLDs where they make 100% of the profits, that kind of aligns everyone else who isn't getting promotion from that registrar with the huge number of other registrars that are promoting .com and every single other TLD. There's no one registrar that owns this space. There's GoDaddy, there's Namecheap, but there's a very, very long tail. I personally buy most of my TLDs right now. I get them through Google because I like the security that comes with authentication with my Google account. And I know, you could get 10 people in the room and they probably use 10 different registrars. So I think, I would make this a distribution game, and I think this space is a little bit too obsessed with with any one particular registrar, and I think the opportunity is really around going wide, and that's really what the space is going to need if it's going to take off. It's going to need as many registrars as possible, educating the market about Handshake.
Noel, did you want to jump in?
No, I'm good if we haven't time for another question.
Let's see. Do we have time for another question? What question can we answer? There's a question for Clay, but I feel like Clay should answer that maybe directly to the guy. Something about what percentage of TLDs do you all believe will end up having a limited shelf life? I'll just say really quickly that not every TLD is suited for SLDs, and that's all I'll say. But you guys can.
Yeah,
that's what. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'll just say quickly, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Like, just because, you see .c everywhere and you may see some of our other ones out there on Twitter doesn't mean like what we're doing is the only way, for your handshake name. So, I mean, I really think that building cool shit like with a handshake name and like having it be like a platform where you can be able to issue unlimited names and like people would want to join the club or whatever else that you have to offer. For example, earlier, literally yesterday, I kind of went to a South by Southwest event. It was kind of like a Web3 company called Sonar, and Sonar, I just found out about them last week. And you want to know what their business is? Digital identity, and what's at the core of it, but a handshake name .snr. And so they're not necessarily having listing on registrars. They're building really cool stuff and going to be integrating it with different, platforms like, Netflix and like all these other ones, as an example. And you'll want to go through their website to be able to get that .snr things to be able to unlock kind of like your digital identity that they're building out. So you just need to be creative and think about all the, different possibilities. We're still really early. This is like the early 90s and us telling you like, everything that's going to exist 20 years from now. When it comes to the internet, it's not going to happen. You have to go out there and to, bring these ideas into existence.
Yeah, and I think
sorry, I think we gotta cut it. Our next speaker, like we're at time now. So sorry to cut you guys short. I know this was really interesting.
You're not cutting us short. I feel like we're the longest session of the conference. I'm proud of us.
But we're already getting comments. This is people's favorite panel so far. And yeah, I mean, I think it's really great because you guys are doing it right. You're in the trenches with your TLD staked, and you're sharing your insights. It's been very valuable. So I really appreciate that.
And one other thing that I want to add, one of the best things that you could do right now, go get a .c, go get a .sat or a .dgen or a .tx. Go put some content on those websites and then submit them into the website race. You can go and win up to 2.5K HNS. You can find more information about it in the feed on the top right. But not only will that make those subdomains more valuable, it'll make Handshake overall more valuable. So definitely go put some content on some website, guys. Cannot stress that enough.
To add to the website hackathon, I also like whoever builds like anything cool with .tx as part of this hackathon, I'm going to give you 100 HNS too. So there's really no reason. You automatically get 500 plus HNS, and then you'll get another 100 HNS for me just for building something with .tx.
Here, I'll do that too for .c and .1 and .10.
Yeah, we got bonuses on bonuses.
Money on top of money. It's raining. It's raining HNS.
Just message me on
money
Twitter.
Emoji, man. There's no money emoji.
Everybody else is spamming all the other emojis. So yeah, HNS for life. This is awesome.
All right.
Let's cut it and we'll go to our next speaker session. Thank you guys for showing up.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everyone.
Kinetic is a blockchain crypto investment firm based in Hong Kong and Puerto Rico. Founded in 2016, they were the first fund in Hong Kong and one of the earliest in Asia. With a portfolio of over 220 companies, they were seed investors in such projects as Ethereum, Parity and Polkadot, Solana, FTX, and of course Handshake and Namebase. Founder Johan Chu is an active investor and supporter of the Handshake ecosystem. Over 100,000 domains, co-founder of DWeb Foundation, co-founder of HandyCon, and sponsor of the Handshake House at Miami Hack Week 2022.